We are here. We are doing a podcast, and I know the podcasting world is kind of crazy, and there's so many podcasts out there, but I feel like I really do believe that the dynamic behind this will be really, really positive, and that's my professional opinion, Susie. I don't know how you feel
Yes,
about that.
I agree. I mean, look, in doing research for this, I started looking at like what marriage podcasts were out there, and it's all like a husband and wife team,
Yeah.
and a lot of them are very heavy with religion too, and it's like the perspective of marriage from the biblical aspect, which is, that's one aspect, but that was the
Yeah.
majority of what I saw. And I didn't see anything like this, especially with this dynamic that you and I have, because as we know, but our listeners and viewers don't know, we're not married to each
No.
other. I have my husband, Matt, you have your wife, Joanne. So this is like two different marriages, right? That are kind of coming together to share what we've learned over the course of almost 21 years. You're going on 21 years
Yep.
married. I'm going on 20. I think that makes us experts, Santi.
I think so too. And listen, I don't want to take away from the biblical part of it all, but I will say when it comes to my marriage, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm very honest and real with the ups and downs and the many challenges that come with being married, especially this day and age. Like, it has not always been easy. I'm going on 21 years, and there were definitely times where like divorce was on the table. And maybe when it comes to religion, faith is a good thing that keeps that together. But I will say in our marriage, like we're not church going people like that. So we've had a lot of challenges and a lot of ups and downs that I am really happy to talk about, because I feel like it's a lot of stuff that people don't talk about when it comes to marriage, especially the challenges, especially some of the uncomfortable conversations that people have. I feel like if we share these stories, we can help out a lot of people.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And not everyone is religious, right? Like
Yeah.
not many people. There's lots of people are spiritual, but maybe don't have that aspect. And you're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of times that provides a different a different avenue for marriage, right? A lot of folks that are church going and they have good relationships with their pastors, when they go through those hard times in their marriage, they can, they have that other community of folks to rely on, right? And hopefully help them get through those tough times. But for people that don't, like, I think it's nice to give them another option too, because like I said, it was not there wasn't a podcast like this,
Yeah.
a marriage podcast that had this perspective. I mean, everyone's going to get the wife take on everything we talk about, and they're going to get the husband take with
Yeah.
you, and also, like, not to mention, you have 4 kids.
Yeah.
Matt and I are child free. We had our dogs and they passed away, unfortunately. But yeah, even that, like that's like a completely different, like you and I have 2 totally different
Yeah.
marriages.
I on that point, like we knew each other in college. Our lives took two drastically different paths.
That's
One
right.
of the things I've always wondered about you is how you kept your relationship together, because people might not know about what your career background is. And you won Miss USA, and I think it was in 2003, four.
3.
And I got to
Yeah.
imagine that for a marriage or a relationship, that sort of like career change and path definitely was not easy for you guys. And I'm sure we'll dig into all of that stuff. But I've always wondered like how you kept it together through all of that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, there was, it's interesting because I had a boyfriend before Matt, and Matt was only my second boyfriend. You
That I
know?
didn't know. Did you had him
I
when
just
you
had
were in
one.
college?
He and I met in college. So Matt and I, and for those who don't know, Santi and I, and his wife Joanne, Matt, my husband, all 4 of us graduated from the same college, Endicott
Yeah.
College in Beverly, Massachusetts. Go Gulls!
Yeah.
And we so we met in college, and Matt was with me. I mean, through the whole, because it wasn't until after college that I decided to, pursue this dream of moving to LA and becoming an actor and a television host. And so the pageant was like a way for me to get there, right? It was like a means to an end. I didn't necessarily want to be Miss USA, but I wanted the opportunities that came with that, and it was really hard to be in a relationship. I mean, at that point, Matt and I had already been together for 3 years. We lived together, and then all of a sudden, I win Miss USA. The next day, I'm moving to New York City to live in an apartment with Miss Universe and with Miss Teen USA, and he's back home, like in our home and working, and I'm off gallivanting the United States, and it was an incredible year, but it was very difficult on
Yeah.
our relationship. I mean, I think we broke up for like 2 days.
Like right after that.
No, 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 not right after, but it was really hard for him.
Yeah.
One day I feel like we should have Matt on and he can share what that experience was like, because I'm sure I never understood it, right? Because as I've always known how much I loved him, and how
Mhm.
much that connection that was always there with us. There was nothing that was gonna like break that, right? And for me, I'm like, okay, this is a sacrifice that we have to, being Miss USA and being away from him, right? Not living with him. I'm like, this is a sacrifice that we have to do for a year, because our lives are gonna greatly improve after this 1 year, but we gotta hang on for this 1 year. And yes, I miss you. I know you miss me, but he used to hop in the car and like drive to New York to like hang out with me, like go out to dinner or something. And then the next morning would have to wake up to drive to work,
Mm.
and he would do that kind of thing all the time. Like, thank God I wasn't Miss Oregon, USA, and living in New York City, because then that would never happen. But the fact that he was, a
Yeah.
4.5 hour drive from New York City definitely made that a little easier. I think we were able to see each other more than your average couple, and where the girl becomes Miss USA. And I make lemonade out of lemons and see the silver lining in things. And Matt is kind of the opposite.
Hmm.
A little
Oh,
bit.
really?
It's so hard for him. So that whole year, rather than thinking about that, like he was just, it was just like devastating for him, and
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I have to imagine the way that I think of it like this, right? Like if we were together and that happened, I'd be happy, right? Oh my God, this is the best thing. This is
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
I want to support you as much as possible. Anything I can do to be there for you. You know what I mean? I know our lives are going to change, but I'm here for whatever you need me for. But at
yes,
the same time, there's going to be an insecurity that's going to be there, especially because, like, listen, from my perspective, this is just me personally, I'm an average guy from the Northeast, right? Now you win Miss USA and you're traveling the world, and I'm sure your paths are crossing with celebrities, with all these famous people. And it just seems like such a foreign space to the average person that, as comfortable as I am in our relationship, there's going to be a part of me that would be a little bit fearful that, are you going to find somebody new? Are you going to fall in love with Brad Pitt at the time, or whomever it is? And like, wow, well, there she goes, and I'm just Santi or Matt from the North Shore.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's what I always want to think. I'm like, damn, that must have been a challenge to keep that together. And I am sure you come across a lot of people in your work that they moved to LA, moved to New York, and that relationship that they left behind just fizzles out. It just doesn't work.
yeah. Yeah, no, it didn't. It happened to, a few years before I was Miss USA. There was a Miss USA that famously left her engagement ring like on her, and started dating a celebrity. And we had heard of those stories, but anytime I got hit on by a celebrity, it was like hilarious to me,
Yeah.
because I'm like, these people, there was an event that I went to with Miss Teen USA in New York City, and it was at the time the New York Yankees. I think it was the catcher was Jorge Posada.
Yes.
Yeah, and he has a son that has like he was born with an illness or something, a disability, and they started a foundation and they were having this gala and and all the Yankees were there. And so we're invited, invited guests, and walk the red carpet and do the whole thing. And we have our travel manager with us, and we're at a table, and this like giant dude comes over and like taps our manager on the shoulder and like gets our attention, and he's like, "Excuse me, ladies, like Mr. Jeter would like to invite you over to his table." would you like to join him? And we were like, yes, let's go hang out with Derek Jeter. Like, how cool is that, right? So he's talking to me, and then it becomes very clear. I'm very naive to these things, Santi. Like, this is another thing that, like, I don't know if Joanne is good at picking up on when men are like hitting on her.
Not that. No, she's not good at it all. No, 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 no.
I never am. Like, I am the worst. I'm just like, oh, this guy is so nice, and he's just being friendly because I'm friendly and I have the gift of gab. I can talk to anybody. I go to the grocery store and I spark up a conversation with, the cashier as they're cashing, as they're bagging groceries and stuff. And so Derek Jeter, it becomes clear that he is hitting on me when he invites me to his game. And I'm like, well, I'm a Red Sox fan, so I don't know. Can I wear my Red Sox gear? And he's like, not if you want to leave Yankee Stadium alive. I'm like, well, then I can't go. I'm like, I'm so sorry to have to decline. But, and then I let him know, I'm like, I have a boyfriend. I'm like, but thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah.
And then I got home. I called Matt, and Matt's like, how was your night? And I told him the story, and he said that his heart sank. Like, he had the opposite, like what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's a confidence in being married and being in a relationship and having this college sweetheart and all this stuff. But like, again, that's a whole nother world that like most people they'll never experience that.
Right.
They can't even imagine that. And that's a dream for so many people, right? To marry Derek Jeter, to be with like all these things.
Sure.
So when you hear that as the average person, yeah, your heart's going to sink. And like, I can understand that. But I think that why it's so important that you talk about that is because like you guys were able to get through so many challenges that to the average person is like a fantasy, like a dream, like all these things.
Yeah.
But like you guys held through all of that, which I truly think is probably more difficult than any BS I've dealt with when it comes to my wife, with like just my marriage, like all these things, all the financial struggles that we've gone through, all these other things. I think that's easy work compared to like trying to keep a relationship in a marriage in a world that's like so complicated and where relationships just don't last. So
Yeah.
I commend you for that. That's like really impressive.
Thank you. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Thanks. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I think we just both know what's real and what's fake,
Yes.
right? Like we both,
Yes.
I didn't go into the entertainment industry to be famous. I did it
Yeah.
because I genuinely love playing pretend. When I went to Endicott, my major was interior architecture and design. Like, I just love being creative. And acting is just a different way to do that, right? Or even, by the way, like my hosting. So after Miss USA and, working at MTV and hosting on TRL and like all the shows that I hosted and been a correspondent on, that stuff to me was playtime. Like hosting to me was playtime because when I was a kid, I just couldn't shut up, like I got so many detentions. I don't know if you were like this too. I mean, you obviously have the gift of gab as well. Maybe it's a Latin thing. Like for those who don't know, I'm Puerto Rican and Dominican and Santi is Dominican and Latinos are very talkative, right? I mean, I don't know that I've ever met a shy Latino.
No, because even if you are shy, somehow your family, like, I don't want to use the word bully, but they bully you out of your shyness and they remind you every day, stop being shy. Come on, like loosen up a bit. So they put this pressure on you to not be shy.
100%. My uncles totally prepared me for Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like my 4 uncles that lived, near me because the rest were in Puerto Rico, but like the amount of just pushing buttons, being bullies, but like in an uncle sweet way,
It's
right?
a camaraderie type of way. Yeah.
Yeah. And they like I had such tough skin, like, so like getting rejected from, going on castings and auditions and getting rejected. None like that it bothered me sometimes if I really wanted the role, right? And felt like, oh my God, I'm perfect for this. And didn't get it. Yes, that would bother me, but it was the not getting it, right? Like the rejection from casting, isn't what upset me about it. But I used to get detentions for talking a lot, in class. And my mom would just be like, Susie, she'd get so frustrated. She'd be like, can you just shut up? Why can't you just shut up and listen to your teacher? Stop talking to like the kids around you, you know, to the other students. And I mean, so many detentions. And so I remember when I got my MTV job, calling my mom and being like, Mom, they want me. They're going to pay me to talk,
Yes. Yes.
you know? And that, you know, that was like incredible to me, you know, that I can do that. And so, you know, I think when it comes to answer the question in my long roundabout way, um, I think oftentimes people go into acting and the entertainment industry because they want to be famous. And that's when you lose touch of what is real and what is not real. And my relationship with Matt has always been very real, you know,
Yeah.
and I've you know, we have a connection that, you know, I mentioned earlier that I had one other boyfriend before Matt. With that other boyfriend, I felt like I could, like I'd be okay if I didn't have him in my life. You know what I mean? Not that he was
Yeah.
disposable. I don't want to say that. That sounds disrespectful. But it was more like, I guess Matt was the first person in my life. Like he was only the second guy I dated. But like when we started dating, I felt like I needed him in my life versus I just wanted him in my life.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, which is a good and bad thing.
I think it's a good thing. I think I've heard this before. I've heard I don't know how they put it, but when you say I needed him in my life, I think a lot of people would, no, not a lot of people. There are people out there who would look at that and be like, well, you don't need anybody. You should be independent. I'm like, I understand that, but when
Yes.
you need somebody, that's like a deeper level of a want, and that's a good thing. If you're living your life and you can be with them or be without, I'm like, that's not a good thing, right? I
Yeah.
think you want to be with somebody. You should have this feeling of like, I want to fight for love when there's issues, and let's work through all this. Because the minute you don't have that mentality, I feel, then it's like, all right, well, if you're here and you aren't, then it doesn't matter. I'm like, that's not like a real relationship. That's not a real marriage. That's not what I want. And I know people
Right.
out there might disagree with me, but I want to be wanted. I want to be needed. And I feel like that's a good thing. That motivates me on the other end to kind of work through problems and like really find the passion and like the love and everything.
For sure. Absolutely. It's a different mentality
Yeah.
that you bring to the marriage. You know, I mean, I had a friend who, shortly after she was married, she's like, you know, it's not going so great. Like, I think we're going to take a break. And I was like, no, like you do not take a break from your husband. I'm like,
Yeah.
you married him for a reason. I said, if you take a break, you're not working on whatever it is that's causing this break, you know, that you want to go on. I'm like, you don't take a break. I said, you stay there and you face each other and you have those tough conversations and whatever, you know, whatever they are. And if you need, you know, a mediator, you need
Yeah.
a therapist, like do that, you know, but the last thing you do is take a break, because
Yeah.
taking a break is just, I don't know, in my opinion, that's how I feel
No,
anyway.
I don't disagree with you. Whenever I hear taking a break, and it's usually from the guy's perspective, is like, are you taking a break so you can hook up with other girls and have it be somewhat like okay? I'm like, no, we're not
Yeah.
taking a break. And it's funny. That reminds me of you and I had a conversation before we started the podcast, and my point to this whole thing was like, I didn't understand the importance of marriage when I first got married. And to
Oh,
that point, I feel like at that, I would have been like, oh, let's just take a break. Let's just, and there was this one time specifically where we were having our issues. And I feel like this is technically a break where she went to stay with her mom for a week and I was in the house for a week. And I wasn't too motivated to have her come back in to the house. The only reason why she came back is because I don't want to. She forced her way back into the house. Not that I was barricading the house or anything like that, but she was like, "No, I'm coming back, and we're gonna fix this." Because I
yes.
started, and thinking back, I think I started to get a little too comfortable with the fact that like she was staying with her mom and I was home.
Oh,
Yeah, and at that time, and I'll just dive right into why I think we were having problems. I think we were 27.
yeah.
We had sold a house and we were building a house and we were living in this small apartment in that in between that my parents owned. And it was just not a good situation. Her brother was off in Iraq and she was dealing with that. And I don't think she knew how to like talk about it like openly, where it was like, hey, I'm feeling really sad about this, it's affecting me, it might be affecting us as like a couple, then I'm unhappy with where I was at work, I'm unhappy with our living situation, and I didn't appreciate or respect or understand the importance of marriage at the time, more so in the sense of, I would always say, oh, marriage feels just like, where it's like, it's just the same as before, where I understand, but it shouldn't feel that. It should feel more important after you get married. And I didn't. So all these things together, we were just heading down a really bad path. And I remember even at the point, like, I think I was out.
Really?
Thinking back, my mind, I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this at all.
Oh my gosh.
And thankfully, she didn't feel the same way at the same time. Because I think if
Yeah.
both those feelings lined up, if she felt the same way and then I did, we would have been done. But thank God she didn't. Thank God she came back in and was like, no, we are going to fix this. And
Yep.
like, I was like, oh, like, okay. And I remember my mom at the time was trying to talk to me about it. And she had me go see a therapist, which I didn't take serious at the time either. I think I was still trying to justify my point of why I wanted to get out. But at the end of the day, because of her like maturity and her respect for marriage at the time, we worked through that entire thing. And I will say, like, looking back, I could have been and should have been more mature about so many things. But thank God she was the mature one, because she saved our marriage then. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. You know, it's funny that you say Matt said something similar. We were engaged and he did something that like really pissed me off. And I was like, do you think I want to marry a man who like, says whatever it was that he did? I don't even remember what it was. That's the craziest part, Santi. I don't know if you and Joanne do this, but like sometimes there are moments that like this one that I remember what I said and how that made me feel, but I don't remember exactly like the issue that was happening. It's like that's how like when you look back at it, sometimes these insignificant like these fights that seem like or arguments,
Yeah.
disagreements seem like such a huge like deal breaker sometimes, and
Yeah.
you think back later and you're just like, oh, that wasn't such a big like I
Yeah.
blew that up, but
I would not only I would blow it up, but then I would do is I would hold a grudge for like 3 days. So imagine living with a person in a small house, and then I'm still like angry for days over, again, to your point, I don't remember what it was. I
really.
remember like the anger and then holding it on. But now looking back,
Oh
how
my
many
gosh.
weeks or days did I waste being mad over something that doesn't matter? That's what I regret
Yeah.
the most. And I feel like I still come across people now who will still do it. You're upset over the smallest thing, where if you were just to communicate your point, and the most important thing
Yep.
is take accountability for what you could have said or done in that argument, it could change the dynamic of so many things. And I feel like now at 45 and gone through so much therapy, like I can take accountability and I can take a step back and be like, you know what? I could have said that better, but here's why I'm upset and here's what's bothering me. And then I go into my feelings, and it sounds like, "Ugh," but at the same time, it has helped out so much, especially when, all this stuff is for nothing most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. It's funny that you say Matt said
Yeah.
something similar. We were engaged and he did something that like really pissed me off. And I was like, do you think I want to marry a man who like, says whatever it was that he did? I don't even remember what it was. That's the craziest part, Santi. I don't know if you and Joanne do
Yeah.
this, but like sometimes there are moments that like this one that I remember what I said and how that made me feel, but I don't remember exactly like the issue that was happening. It's like that's how like when you look back at it, sometimes these insignificant like these fights that seem like or arguments, disagreements seem like such a huge like deal breaker sometimes, and you think back later and you're just like, oh, that wasn't such a big like I blew
Mm.
that up, but if I don't, if there are things about you that I don't like that we haven't worked out, today, I'm not going to marry you. And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
so it was in, you know what I mean? Like to him, he was like, well, I'm not going to do this when once we're married. And I was like, but because in my heart and in my mind, we were already married. Like that's how committed I was. I tell him all the time, and I still maintain that today. I didn't even have to get married. Honestly, we got married because he proposed, and then we were engaged for 3 years. And he finally was like, shouldn't you be planning our wedding? I'm like, no. I'm like, you propose. I'm like, if you want to get married, you better help me. I'm like, this is going to be 50-50. I'm like, I am not going to sit here and plan a wedding like on my own. I'm like, I didn't even need to be married to you. My level of commitment did not change the day after we got married or
Yeah.
at the ceremony. Like, so I think that that's interesting. Like, I feel like that was an eye-opening moment in our relationship when he said that. He's like, well, I'm not going to do that once we're married.
Yeah.
I
Honestly,
was
like
like, I think
if
that's really
we were to,
important.
yeah, like if you were my wife, we would not have gotten married. There were so many, like, so that was a very mature point of view at your age, where you're 25, 26 when you said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have went right over my head, and you would have been like, Santi, we're not getting married at all. You have too much to work out. You're acting like a child. I'm good.
That's hilarious. That's funny. Yeah, you said you literally you had just said something. I can't remember what it is now. It was like 10 minutes ago. But
Yeah,
you
I'm
said
like,
something about like that you said that like to Joanne, that like when you got married, like you didn't quite.
it was the same thing to me. It was the same exact thing. I still went out. I still was partying. I still was coming home like super late. And then when we had our first son, and I was 30 at the time, I was still hosting a lot of like nightclub gigs through work and all that stuff. But I would still go
Yeah.
out, party all day. No, party like all night, sleep all day Saturday, and she had a baby, and we had this child where I wasn't, not that I was like an absentee dad or anything like that, but I didn't understand I wasn't as present. I wasn't as present as I should have been at the time. More so in our first 4 years of marriage. When I
Yeah.
became a dad, it all started to change. But I will say, going back, and I still tell it to this day, I go, the only thing I wish I could go back, I wish I could have been more present when we first got married, because I feel like there were so many moments as a young married couple that would have been amazing to experience with you at the time if I was more present and more there. And I get emotional, and she gets emotional thinking about it. And she has said to me that, well, at least I'm present now, because sometimes it doesn't always go that way, where things start off great in the beginning and then they start to fade out. I feel like I've gotten better as the years go on, and I feel like I'm still getting better as like a husband and a dad and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But looking back, I wasn't great at all.
Aw.
Yeah.
Do you think you weren't ready to get married when
I
you
was
got
not
married?
ready. No,
You
no.
were not ready.
I got married because I got engaged because I thought it was the next logical thing to do. I got
Sure.
engaged at 23. Um, we were married at 24. I turned 25 on my honeymoon. So I was not ready at all. I didn't understand the responsibility of marriage. I wasn't in like anywhere in my career where I wasn't making like any money. So many things I was not prepared for. I wasn't mature. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't know myself really. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was not ready at all.
You were
At
just kind of following the societal norms, like this is the next step, this is what you do.
100%.
Yes.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard. That's like the toughest thing about being a young person, I think, which is why I think it's one of the reasons why I think that this podcast is going to be such a great source of information for hopefully young people. Like I hope that all the youngins out there, who are in relationships with somebody who they may, or like maybe I could be married to this person, maybe they're
Yeah.
the one, maybe they're not the one. Like I think this information, right? Because hindsight is 2020. We've been
Yeah.
there, and here we are still. So with the same people that we married, and I think that it's gonna it's gonna open some eyes for young folks, and just hopefully give them a little bit of a direction, right? Some tips
Yeah.
that'll help them get there, because it's one of the toughest things I think about being a young person, and it starts pretty much right away. Like, right, you're in high school, and it's like, what college are you going to go to? What are you going to major in? And what are you going to work in for the rest of your life? At 18 years old, you got to make that decision. 17, and then you spend all this money, and then you're in debt, and then maybe you meet somebody, And then you're like, oh, well, we've been together for 5 years. I guess we got to get married now. It's like, and maybe they're not the right person for you,
Yeah.
So I just hope, I hope young people get some healthy tips from us.
Yeah.
So
And
that,
I hope also too,
yeah,
like even people in their 40s and 50s who are
yeah,
sometimes like, I don't know, just still don't understand these things. So maybe they'll listen
yeah,
to something here where we'll communicate in a way where they'll take a step back and say, wow,
yep,
I do that. Maybe that's something I can fix or I can work on and all that. Because I feel like 45, still figuring this thing out and I'm still understanding so many things. And every day there's a new conversation that I have with her that I'm like, I think different now. That's just because of all the years we've been married. But I still put in a conscious effort to be better and still evolve. So hopefully somebody can hear something through this journey of ours that could help them in their marriage as well.
amen. We're going to take people to church. That's what's going to go down on this podcast.
And we'll
Um,
keep it real, as I say, with a lot of this stuff too, because I'm very
yes.
candid when it comes to the ups and downs and a lot of stuff when it comes to marriage too.
Yeah. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to discuss all the things, Santi, because there's just so many different aspects of marriage, especially as you get older, right? Like
Mm.
once that like hotness fizzles out, I mean, hopefully it does. I don't know. I still feel like I don't know. I am more attracted to Matt
Yes.
today than I was back then. And yes, we've changed. Our perspectives have changed on different things. But that growth has happened simultaneously for us. Like we've grown together. And I think that there's a level of, sometimes marriages, people grow apart,
Yeah.
right? And I think when folks don't make the effort to include their spouse or significant other in those interests and changes as life goes, evolves, like if you don't share these things, you don't want to share them. I mean, hopefully you married your best friend, right?
Yeah.
And whatever new things you're learning, you want to share with them and they get excited about it too because you're excited about it, right? And you're learning and growing together. I think that that's really, really important. I think
Yes.
when you just start doing things apart,
Yeah.
and
Here's
I think that's not great. It's not
no, and
great.
here's an example of something I've been trying to get an answer for the last couple days. I was on Instagram or TikTok, I forget which one it was, and these playing cards came up where it's for couples, and one of the questions was,
Oh, I love those.
if you could add one element to our sex life, what would it be? I asked her this, and my wife is very shy. She doesn't talk about sex. She doesn't talk about all these emotions as much as me. I'm very comfortable in all that space. I've been asking her for days that like this one question because I feel like, listen, we're 45 now. Like that part of our lives, it's really great. Like we have scheduled sex, which is a whole nother episode, but at the same time, like there's an understanding there. But at the same time, I don't want to stop the evolution of where we're going to be and all this stuff. So we've been together a long time. What is one thing in our sex life that you would like to add that might change it, might evolve it?
Yeah.
Been trying to get an answer for that for days. I told her what my answer was, and she was like, okay, she was fine with that. But I'm dying to hear hers because I wonder if there's a way to kind of meet in the middle. But my point is like there's constant evolution, but there's communication, and like we're on this journey together to evolve together. I feel like the more you have these conversations, the better. And that's a whole other aspect of marriage, which I feel like doesn't get as much. It's not as much of a topic of conversation as maybe as it should be between couples, especially as they age.
Yes, for
Because
sure.
that's a part that might change and might not always be for the better. Though, you
Yeah.
could be with somebody for a long time and that just starts to fizzle and fade. But again, putting in the work and even something, I mean, to some people it's simple, but I don't think it's a simple. It's a big part of a relationship. Like
Mm-hmm.
putting attention and work down that path can lead to wonders down the road. So, yeah.
100%. 100%. And
Yeah.
it does change. And that's the thing. It's like
Oh, yeah.
that is change is inevitable
Mhm.
in so many in your career, in your relationship, your body, how you feel, right? Like all of those things. I mean, especially, I mean, for you guys after having 4 kids
Yeah.
too, right? Like all of these things. But I think just keeping that open line of communication, right? And then working and wanting to work hard
Yeah.
at understanding each other, right? Because man, it is true. Like the whole like men are from Mars and women are from Venus. I think it's true.
Yeah.
We're two
Yeah.
completely like not only opposite sex, but like two completely different people that are living under one roof and trying to have an awesome, create an awesome, productive life. And, with children, I know that that's a whole other can of worms, complications, which, I'm dying to learn more about that. Because, okay, I was Miss USA, but oh my gosh, you guys had 4 kids. Like, that's hard, right? And like having two different perspectives on parenting, like, what did you guys like talk about that? Like how you want to raise children? Was it
No,
You didn't
we
have that
never set
conversation?
out. We never sat out and had a conversation about it. I think we both just started parenting in our own way and kind of met in the middle on a lot of stuff. I know for her, I can tell you this like right now. I'm very open with our kids, and sometimes I say like, I'll tell jokes that I kind of they're maybe a little too young to understand and fully understand the dynamic behind it, but I think they're
Yeah.
funny and she gets
Hmm.
upset with me. But that's kind of like but in the middle, we're very consistent with our parenting. Even if I disagree with something, I will back her up in front of the kids just to let them know that we're a united front. And we always communicate like everything between each other. But if I do need to have a conversation, like, hey, I think you were a little harsh on him, and sometimes I do need to fill her in on like, hey, like our oldest is 16. I'm like, hey, remember, he's a 16-year-old boy who thinks he knows everything with the world. Remember what it was like for you back at that point in your life and look at it from that perspective. It may help you understand him a lot better. So, but I won't do that in front of the kids because I want them to always understand that we communicate and we're united all the time. So that
Awesome.
part of everything has evolved into what it is now. We never had a traditional conversation about it back in the day, but our parenting styles are very different. I'm more of a communicator with them. I'm more comfortable talking about the birds and the bees and all that stuff and all these emotions with all our kids, where she handles more of like the discipline stuff and more of like the day-to-day like logistics, where I'm really good at getting uncomfortable with them with conversation. So we fill each other in with that, but I think it's something that's just evolved over the last 16 years of being married.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy to keep intimacy going. It's not easy to kind of find that alone time together. It's not I mean, it takes a lot of work. Like,
Yeah.
we try to go away maybe once or twice a year, just us, and even if it's just a weekend in Boston or something like that, something that just is our like alone time. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to do is when the kids aren't here, which is once a year, maybe twice a year, where like they'll be at a sleepover or they'll be with my in-laws. We have a hot tub. We have adult time in the hot tub. What I mean is there's no clothes, which is great. There's not like craziness going on like in
I
the
hope
hot
not.
tub.
I'm like, that seems uncomfortable.
No, that's not even like that's uncomfortable and unhealthy too, from what I understand. But
Yes.
like even that part of the marriage, like when we can take advantage of these situations, it's really good. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it takes work to find those moments and stuff, but we just always try to do that. So
Yeah. That's great.
you listen,
That's
and
great.
I've heard the notion like back in the day too, like, oh, we'll just have kids and it'll be so much better. No, kids does not make any relationship better or
Oh my
easier. It just
gosh.
adds it adds a challenge, a complexity. It just
Yeah.
makes it like harder.
Sure. I know that I've never understood that perspective. Like, let's have a kid to fix our marriage or to fix any issues. Like, wait, what? Like,
No.
that's wild to me. Wait, so at what point, Santi? Because I was back in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
We had been communicating like over text, and you were like, "Hey, let's get together for coffee." I'm like, "Yeah, let's do that." And we did, and you pitched me this idea. This was your
Yeah.
idea to do this podcast. Why at this point? I mean, you've hosted so many shows, the same one for a long, long time, many, many years. And why at this point in your marriage did you feel like you wanted to host this type of a show, a marriage podcast?
Well, I think this goes back probably when I got into the digital space and really found my love for video and media and digital stuff, not specifically like the radio and the TV stuff. The podcasting world was so big. And I
Yeah.
love the idea that you could have these conversations on this platform and you eliminated like the gatekeepers. And I spent my life being told no by so many gatekeepers. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. That's not funny. Like all the stuff. I got tired of that world. And when the podcasting world and the Instagram world and the video world kind of blew up, it backed up my feeling that these gatekeepers are all wrong. So when podcasting got really big, there were so many compelling podcasts out there, but I never saw one that was like a real good marriage podcast from different perspectives. It was all like this, just like you kind of said, and not to take away from the religion part of it, but it was all like
Yeah.
this, oh, we love each other so much and we don't have problems. This is what you have to do. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not reality.
No.
So when you and I were texting, and I'm like, wow, I think she would be really good at this, and I think you were moving back into the area. So I wanted
Yeah.
to meet because I knew that the potential for this could be really, really good and compelling. And I also like the way that we're doing this. You know, you're filming from home, I'm filming from my house too, and I just thought the conversation could be really interesting. And this goes back to knowing you back in college, following your career through the entertainment world, and just now, and even in the conversations we had through text. And that first day when we met for coffee, I knew that it could be very compelling and interesting. I also thought it could evolve into some stuff that could be really big and really fun.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think so. And then I think I shared with you that Matt and I, when podcasts were first started to pop up, we've always wanted to work together, you know. And Matt wanted to start a podcast about marriage called The Relationship Show, because he would always like his whole thing. We always laughed. We're like, yeah, marriage. Being married is a shit show, you know. So we kind of like married the words together. And then, funny enough, there is a podcast called The Relationship Show.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, which is so funny. But yeah, it's like it was something that we wanted to do and we never did it. And when you brought it up, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, like I'd love to do that. And then furthermore, I like this dynamic more than like hosting a show with Matt, because, you know, like I said, it's all the other podcasts out there about marriage are about, it's the people in the relationship that are hosting the show. They're not,
Yeah.
it's nobody like us who both have backgrounds too in as hosts as well,
Yes.
right? Like we're just
Yes.
not random married people.
I also think too, when you're there with your spouse, like you can be very candid. I know a lot of relationships are like that, but I feel like it's easier to be more candid when like the spouse is not there. Also, my wife is not the type of person to come on here and start talking about our sex life or some of the challenges that we face. I'm very comfortable in that space, so I think it adds to that dynamic between the two of us too, to allow me to have, you know, openly talk about this. And you can like, she's very comfortable with me being who I am, and that's one thing I think we've always got along like very well. She's never tried to change a person who I am, so even having these conversations on this podcast, she's well aware of it, and just that's me. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that about Joanne, like that she's not comfortable with something that's so huge. Like it's huge, right? To be able to, and to your point, I mean, you said that she was shy, and it's like to be a shy person, but then your husband is the complete opposite. You know, you're comfortable speaking about whatever, and she's good to let you fly.
Yeah, yeah. And I think
That's
like
cool.
I think the timing of this is really good because maybe in the past I would have overshared in a way that was maybe a little bit not as respectful towards her, where now I can overshare and it's done in a respectful way where like listen, I mean I'm more respectable in the sense of like I don't throw her under the bus, not that I did before, but I just always try to protect her at the end of the day while still being very candid about everything.
Right.
Too, so
That's
So I
great.
just think the timing of all this is really perfect, and I really truly believe that this can be a lot of fun and very successful. And I think it could also help out a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be awesome. It's going to be fun. And so many stories to share, obviously. I mean, after being married for 20 plus years, right? And together I mean, Matt and I are going on 26 years together.
Wow.
Yeah.
26 years.
26 years, but married for 21.
I see.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a long time. And
And
it's
I
a
don't even
lot
know
of
what
growing.
I don't know what the average marriage is this day and age, but I mean, I always heard about the 7-year itch and people not making it even close to that. And I still come across people in my town getting divorced like all the time. But
Yeah.
to be with somebody for that long, that's something positive. That's very successful, especially with all the
Yeah.
challenges that we're facing too.
For sure. And, you know, I have friends all the time, like single friends, you know, who over the years I'd be out to lunch or grabbing happy hour drinks or something with them. And they'd be, oh, you and Matt have the perfect marriage. Like, I'm like, no, we don't. And they're shocked to hear that we like argue or have fights. What, you and Matt fight? I'm like, yes, we're normal. Like, just because we've been together, I get it. We've been together but we talk all the time. And by the way, that was something that I was not good at. Like, Matt helped me cultivate that part, that aspect. Cause I was the type of person that like held things in,
Mm.
and 2 weeks later I'd blow up, and you need to be like, what's going on? Like, cause like this shouldn't have warranted like that reaction,
Mm.
And I'm like, well, 2 weeks ago you did this, and then you did this. And he was like, what? That was 3 weeks ago. He's like, you've been holding on to this like anger for this. He's like, why don't you just tell me that bothered you back then? Right.
Yeah.
And it just piles up, right? And then, because I didn't want to be like, in my mind, I didn't want to be like a nag, I didn't want to be a
Yeah.
naggy wife, a naggy partner. And I wouldn't say anything, but now it's the opposite. So now we just constantly talk to each other, and that improved our relationship big time. Like,
Oh, good.
just, yeah, because then you're not coming at it like with, you're you're coming from more of a place of love and like, hey, like, that hurt my feelings, or when you said this or did this, like, this is how I felt about it, right? And then you can just talk about it, and it's not like weeks of
Yeah.
things piling on, and you're not being a nag, you're just communicating, So I think having different vocabulary was also helpful to
Yeah.
that,
Which is
but
something you don't do when you're young. At least I didn't. So now
no.
being in my 40s like that, I can feel you talking about that, and I can feel the power in that and the
Oh,
importance too.
oh my gosh, so much power. So much
Yeah.
power. And you know what I want to talk about too, because Joanne and I are like the same age,
Mhm.
is, and I think this is one of the reasons, or at least a very important reason, why so many marriages might end around this time. I don't know about you, but I have several friends who are going through a really hard time in their marriage right now. And perimenopause, like women in midlife that are going through perimenopause, that has such a profound effect on your relationship. And I feel like that's a whole other episode, Santi, that we need to like chat about. And
Absolutely. I will give you, I mean, I have notes on that because the conversations we've been having over the last like 6 months about it have been very real and honest. And I will
yeah,
say that I have such a deep now and respectful understanding about what one might be dealing with, because
yeah,
before I just didn't get it. I did some research, I did some reading, I did some understanding about that. But man,
yeah.
that's you 1,000% a whole nother episode about those challenges.
For sure, for sure. And I think, man, because it's so crazy, right? Like people are like, oh, it's a woman thing, and it's like, well, no, because your partner is living with you, and it affects them profoundly,
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Matt's purchased 2 books already on the topic, to learn more, and it's just. It's yeah, it's an important conversation to have, because it does break up marriages, and yeah, yeah. It's funny. That's the only, by the way, one of the only times where, man, I told Matt, I was like, okay, you need to leave. I'm like, you need to leave, and you need to go stay with your parents. But before he had packed a bag and everything, and I was so angry with him. And then I was like, I'm like, one of the things that always bothered me too is like when I feel like if you're talking to a therapist about an issue that you're having in your marriage, it's one thing. But when
Mhm.
you're complaining about your spouse to friends and you're just bad mouthing, I'm like, you're talking to the wrong person. Anytime a friend would come to me to like talk negatively about their husband or their boyfriend, whatever, I'd be like, you're talking to the wrong person. You need to
Yeah,
be having this conversation with him. I said,
I
it's
agree.
fine. Maybe you're venting. I love you. I'll be here for you as your friend. And please cry on my shoulder and vent all you want. But this conversation and this means nothing if you're not going to talk to them about it, because you guys are the ones he's the one in the relationship with you, right?
Mhm.
And so when I essentially kicked Matt out, I was like, I can't look at you. I'm like, you need to leave. He was about to leave and go to his parents' house, and I was like, no. I'm like, stay. I'm like, don't go to your parents' house, because then you're gonna have to explain why you're there, and and the whole. I'm going against my thought of like, keep like work on your issues, right?
Mhm.
Like don't separate. But it was my idea. I was like, I'm sorry you packed. I'm like, please unpack and stay. So
Uh,
I was still angry. But the next day, Santi, I woke up and I realized I felt so much better. My anger, the hard emotions that I was having the day before, was perimenopausal.
oh,
It
really?
it was tied into that. Yeah, it was. And so that's why I would love to have like a whole, just
Yeah.
one whole episode. Because at this age, like the havoc that your hormones being on a roller coaster, like what that does, the toll it takes on you is it's not reality. But you
Yeah.
still behave in such a way, right? And it's hard. It's
Yeah,
hard.
like absolutely. I mean, again, I've only seen it, but even having you talk about it, I can only imagine what you must be dealing with. But it's great that you were able to recognize that it was that, and that you
Yeah.
told him to unpack the bag and to stay. Because think about, it would have
Yeah.
you guys would have fixed it, like obviously, but again, maybe it would have been a little bit worse. So, but it's great that
Yeah.
you recognized it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so crazy. Yeah.
Susie, you had this idea called the high low, which I thought was really, really good. And it was the highs and the lows from the week from your marriage, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do
Yes.
you want me to go first or do
Who
you want
wants
to
to
go
go
first?
first?
I guess I will go first. Okay.
Okay, okay. You go first.
Do you want to start with the high or the low?
I feel like you should start with the low so we end on a high
Okay.
note, right?
So my low from this week came in the form I realized I was being a little bit of a baby. Last night, my wife took all of our kids and some of their friends to a trampoline park that's down the street. And I think she left the house at 4 o'clock. And the plan was not to be gone for the entire night, but it just happened like that. She ended up texting me around 7:30, and it was a Saturday night too. That's really why I had the issue. It was a Saturday night. She said, "Hey, we're gonna go get some dinner afterwards. You want to meet us out?" And I said, "Well, I can't because I still have work to do." But the minute she texted me that, I was like super annoyed. I'm like, "It's a Saturday night. What are you doing? This is our night to hang out." And I got very selfish about the entire thing.
Yes.
Within the process of like realizing that I was annoyed, I was like, "Wait a second. She's out with all the kids. She's bringing them out to dinner, which I understand. And then she's going to be home at some point." I did ask her what time she was coming home. She said 8, which in my mind says, all right, it might even be closer to 9. She ended up getting home at 8:45.
Okay.
In the past, I would have been super upset. This time, I was just annoyed, but it was more so like, hey, I feel like you're wasting our Saturday night. And I got very selfish about the other thing. So that was my low, but not low in the sense of like it turned out to be a bad night because she was home before 9 o'clock and we still got to hang out. It was a low more so that I got really selfish about that really stupid thing where it really doesn't matter. She's out with all the kids doing a nice thing for all of them. I was home working and I was able to eventually watch one of my shows that I was like backed up on. So the low point
Perfect.
was the way that I thought about this from the first perspective, and I could have handled things better from the beginning. I know I was definitely texting with like a tone and like an attitude, but I warmed up as soon as she got home and everything. So that's my low.
Oh, okay. That's a
Yeah.
good one. That's a good one.
And my high is this. So yesterday it was snowing up here in the Northeast, and it was super cold, and we were low on gas, and it's going to sound really stupid, but I pumped her gas for her and I was adamant that I was going to do it and all this stuff. And I think like it was a high because back in the day, I would have been completely fine with her getting out and pumping her own gas in the weather. And she would have probably been fine as well. But I'm more understanding that she was driving and why not just do the nice thing for her? And then afterwards, I ran inside and got her a Celsius, which she loves too. So I'm like, you know what? I just feel like I need to do these things for her. And she actually thanked me for pumping her gas, but I took that point to be like, well, thank you for all that you do for me, because then that made me realize that she does the laundry, she does all these things that I just don't do. So that was my high.
Yes.
And not because I'm proud that I pumped her gas, is that I'm realizing how much I've changed and become a better husband, because back in the day I wouldn't have given a shit if she was out there pumping the gas, and I would have been completely fine.
Yes.
So that was my high.
The thoughtfulness. That's so important in a marriage to be
Yeah.
thoughtful.
And I think to the point that we just talked about, I'm just still trying to evolve and be better, because I feel like early on I was not great.
Yes. Oh, Santi.
Yeah.
That's very sweet.
Yours?
Man. My high low. Okay, so I'll start with my low. Matt is traveling. This is like for the oh man. I feel like in the past it was mostly me traveling for work and him staying back home. And this time he's the one traveling and I'm staying back at home, and he's very far. He's in Vietnam right now shooting a pilot for a travel show, and there were like 4 or 5 things that I told him to do, because I'm the one that usually travels for work like all the time, right? So I told him, I was like giving him all these tips. And in my mind, I was like, these are good tips. Like, he needs to do these things, right? I packed a pharmacy bag for him because we've taken trips where like we've gotten the flu while we're in Morocco and Egypt, and there's no CVS, right? And we can't get Tylenol and things like that, and then the language barrier. So I was like, Matt, you're going to Vietnam. Like, let me pack this thing for you. And he was like, no, no, I won't need Band-Aids. I won't need this. And I'm like, hopefully you won't, but you might. And so there were like, he ended up taking the pharmacy bag with him, but there were these other things that we were FaceTiming once he was there, and he was like, you were right about this, and you were right, I should have done that, I should have done this. And I was like, I told you so. I just had this moment of like gloating, like, oh man. I was like, and then afterwards he was like, you don't have to rub it in like that. Like, I'm letting you know. And I was like, damn, he's right. I'm like, I am being a total see you next Tuesday. And I need to like slow my roll, and I apologized. I was like, I'm so sorry, you're right. Like, he's like, you could have just let me be. He's like, the point that it happened, and I realized that I should have listened to you. I should have done these, taken these pointers. I've learned, like, let me be. Like, I'm the one that's suffering it already. I don't need you, like, hammering it home, adding insult to injury.
I won. Yes.
I know. Like, what is that? Like, what? And
why? Because it feels good sometimes, especially when it comes to your spouse, to know the advice you were giving them, especially if they gave you some pushback in the beginning. Like, I was right, but that's why.
Man, but it's so true, though. So it was like, it's crazy that at 46, you could still be like, all right, I learned a little snippet of how to be a better human being and how to be a better wife. Yeah. Damn. But that was like, even just saying this out loud, I'm like, damn, Susie, you're such a bitch sometimes. Like, stop it. So that was my low. That was my low. My high, he hasn't been here for the last week. So I feel like my high is I haven't been able to like do anything nice for him, because he's gone working. We FaceTime every day. He's exactly 12 hours from our time, right? So when I'm waking up, he's going to bed and vice versa. So we've been FaceTiming at both of those times. But yeah, something that I realized with this trip is that A, I can't do it again. And B, I don't know if I need to go to therapy for this, but to like work this out, but the amount of depression and anxiety that I had leading up to him leaving, and then after he left, like being alone and away from him, I was like, oh my God. I'm like, at some point, one of us is going to die. And if he goes first, I don't know, there's a codependency there that I think could be unhealthy. Is that? I'm like, it's love.
This down because
are you right?
It's a good topic to talk about, especially with the natural lead into the next one here.
Santi, it was like really bad. Like I was telling, like at one point I was FaceTiming with him. I'm like, I think this is unhealthy. I'm like, a lot of people travel for work. I'm like, I was like in this like such a deep depression. And again, I don't know, maybe it was perimenopause hormones, like, doing their thing, but it was really hard. And I told Matt, I said, I feel like it's unhealthy. Like my dependency on you being around, cause we work from home.
Yeah.
And so we're home all the time. Like we're just together. So I don't know if it's like a ongoing thing.
I think this is a thing that a lot of couples struggle with, because if you think about it, like I remember this when I was younger, having an ex who like where I would be off to college and they were home, it caused a whole bunch of issues. And I still see it now. I see it with like grown adults when the spouse is going away for like bachelorette or bachelor parties, just the drama that causes. Like I feel like this hits a bunch of different things. I'm not saying yours has nothing to do with jealousy, but like there's all elements of this space that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's not jealousy. I'm not jealous at all. It's just him not being around.
Yeah. And I have that too. When my wife's away from work, like I don't like it. Or when I'm away, I would rather be home and like around her. So yeah.
Yeah. But I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm an adult. I should be able to deal with this. Like, he's gonna get back. Like, he'll be home, you know? But it was just like a realization that I was like, wow, I'm like, this is like wild that I'm having these like such strong feelings, you know, like that. And I have a friend that on his Instagram stories, he shared that his uncle, he had an uncle who died recently, and his wife, his aunt, passed away the day of his uncle's funeral. And
Wow.
yeah, and my friend was just like, he was just sharing, he's like, this is like, you know, folks from news outlets from all over the country are flying in to like cover this story, because it's kind of like a real life notebook, you know, the notebook, the notebook. And man, that story, I mean, it was just like the other day that this happened. And my friend just said, he's like, you know, she died of a broken heart. She's like, they just couldn't live without each other.
Yeah.
They loved each other, you know, to the very end. And when he passed away, like a few days ago or whatever, she was like devastated, and she ended up dying the day of his funeral. I feel like that's going to be me.
I was about to say, I feel like you're saying that that's going to be you.
It's totally going to be me. Santi, if Matt goes before me, I mean, like, call me.
Yes, I will. I'll check up on you.
It is not going to be good. I probably, yes, I will die of a broken heart.
I will convince you that it's not your time to go.
Okay. Well, man, I am so excited to like continue these conversations. And like we've been saying, I feel like people are really going to find some of these conversations and the things that we're going to share and talk about, like, compelling and helpful. And, you know, maybe we will save some marriages. That is my hope.
Listen, I think we will. I think a lot of people are really uncomfortable talking about the challenges they have in their marriage, and hopefully through this will spark some conversations, especially at home. So I am convinced that we will.
Yeah.
And by the way, we didn't even mention what the name of the podcast was.
Oh my gosh, we haven't.
Nope.
No, I have something to say about this too. I do.
Okay.
So the name of the we settled on Spouseology.
Yes.
But I used to have a company called Pageantology.
Yep.
And I didn't even come up with the term Spouseology. Like, it wasn't my thing. But I sent you like maybe a dozen or so names to call this podcast, like, you know, for the podcast. And that's the one that you just gravitated toward. And I just had a moment that I'm like, people are going to be like, wow, Susie's so unoriginal. Like, she went from pageantology to Spouseology. And I just want to put it out there. It was Santi chose it. I sent him like 12 names, and that's the one that you love the most.
I love that one, but it's a natural progression from what you did before to this. So I think it's completely fine, right?
Okay. I have a brand.
Yeah,
it's a brand.
True. We're continuing it.
That's right. That's so funny. Spouseology. Yeah.